Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So, if you've been trying to connect your local setup to AWS or prep your machine for Terraform, you're absolutely in the right place. So, today I'm going to be walking you through how to install and configure the AWS CLI on your laptop the right way and using best practices. So, you'll basically learn how to install the AWS CLI, how to create an IAM user instead of using your root account, which is actually super important. Third is configuring your credentials locally and also testing your setup with real AWS commands. And I think at the end, I'm also going to show you how all of this ties together with Terraform, so that your local machine is just ready for some real automation. So let's just dive into the video. Okay, so the AWS CLI, it basically lets you interact with AWS using some basic terminal commands instead of just clicking around the console. So this obviously means faster workflows, automation, scripting, and it's also super essential if you're going to be using tools like Terraform, GitHub Actions, or any sort of CI/CD setup. But to do this safely, we need to avoid using our AWS root account, and that's where like IAM users and IAM roles come into play. Okay, so when you first create your AWS account, you get a root user. So it has full access to basically everything in your AWS environment. And that's why it's super risky to use it for day-to-day tasks. So AWS recommends using IAM users or IAM roles for like everyday use. And that's exactly what we are going to be doing today. So just so that you guys know, let's talk a little bit about IAM users and IAM roles, right? So IAM users are typically tied to an individual and they have long-term access keys associated with them. So while they give specific access to AWS resources, they're generally less secure because their keys don't rotate automatically. So what that means is if someone gains access to those keys, they have long-term access to your environment. So on the other hand, IAM roles are often used for like temporary access. So you can assume a role and AWS automatically generates those temporary credentials that are rotated regularly. So this makes roles like a more secure choice, especially for ongoing automated access to AWS. But for this demo, we're going to be using an IAM user with long-term credentials because it's simpler and just better suited for this demo. In practice, for production or long-term use, I'd recommend IAM roles for better security. Okay, so if you don't already have like an AWS account, go to aws.amazon.com and click create a free account over here. So you'll just be asked for like an root user email address and AWS account name. And then after this, you'll also be asked for like payment details. AWS has a generous fee tier, but you'll have to provide your card at the beginning just for confirmation purposes. And once you're in, you'll be locked as a root user. Okay, so I have to sign in using my root user email. So this is the page for that, and let me just quickly put my email address for root. Okay, sign in. Okay, so you will see that this is your homepage for your root user account. Okay, so let's create the IAM user. So how we do that is we go to the IAM service page. Okay, and once we do that, click users, and then you already see I have two users. You can create a new user, say AWS CLI. And so basically you have to be giving this programmatic access so we can generate access keys. And you can see here that if you're creating that access, you can do it after you create the user. The CLI doesn't really need the user access to the management console, so you can just skip that. Once you do that, okay, so one very important thing is for permissions, you have to attach the administrator access just for this. Okay, usually you wouldn't do this in production because no user would have like admin access for this. uh, just make sure you use least privilege in production, right? So once you go down and click next, okay, so you can create the user. Okay, so once you do this, just click the user. Yeah, and click security credentials. Okay, and you have to create access key over here. So if you read this, you'll see that you can do programmatic calls to AWS from the CLI for this. So you need to create it, and make sure that once you can put CLI. Okay, go next, and your tag can be anything. Create access keys. Okay, so just make sure that you download this, because you're never going to be able to see these again. So just make sure that you download like a file for it. Okay. Okay, so now that you've done this, you have to install the AWS CLI on your machine. Also, just really remember that you cannot generate these again. You cannot view them again. So just make sure that you can obviously create a new one, but just make sure that you do it right over here. Yeah. Okay, so for installing the AWS CLI, if you're on Mac OS, then you probably have to run the brew install AWS CLI command. Okay, and for Windows and Linux, you can download it from the official documents available. I'll probably link it in the description below. Okay, uh, so once you do that, okay, it's still downloading. Okay, so it's done downloading. So you can just verify if it's there in your system by doing AWS version. You'll see that it's installed. So the next thing you have to do is you have to connect the CLI to the AWS using the user that we created. So you can just do AWS configure. Okay, what it does is it will prompt you to enter the AWS access key ID, the AWS secret access key, default region, and output format. Okay, so once you do this, you're securely connected your local machine to AWS. So let me just quickly open my credential files. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to get the list. Okay, I got the credentials. Okay, so default region you can just put as US East 1 and then this. Okay, so now you have configured your AWS credentials here locally. So just to verify, you can put down this command. So what this command does is it basically shows you the identity behind your current credentials. Okay, so if everything's set up right, you will be seeing your IAM user info, right? You saw that, fine. So now that you've locally configured it, let's just head to maybe creating an S3 bucket and then just deleting it just to confirm that your CLI setup works. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm also going to be quickly showing you how to install Terraform on MacBook. It's very similar in Windows and Linux as well. I'll link it in the description below. So on your Mac, what you can just do is you can just do brew tab HashiCorp tab. Okay, once you do that, just install this. Okay, and I think I made a typo. Oops. Okay, missed something here. Yeah, so I've already installed it, as you can see. You guys can do that, and once you do that, just do Terraform V so you can confirm that it's installed. Okay, so once you do that, I can show you how to create code. with it. Okay, so after installing Terraform, you can see that I have sample code over here where main.tf file where I've written a provider block and also a resource block. So I'll just quickly talk about that for a few minutes. So basically, a provider is a plugin that kind of tells Terraform how to interact with a specific cloud platform. So it's basically like a tool that kind of defines what you want, and the provider knows how to talk to the cloud service to just make that happen. Okay, so in this main.tf block, if you see, this provider mainly does two things, right? It tells Terraform that you're going to manage AWS resources, and it specifies the region where those resources will be created. Okay, so how does the provider basically authenticate? So the AWS provider will automatically look for credentials that you've already set up via either AWS configure, which we just did, or environment variables that you set up, or shared config profiles. So when you ran the AWS config earlier with your IAM user, Terraform is now ready to use those same credentials without you having to hard code anything in your Terraform files. So a resource block is how you define what infrastructure you want to create. So here I've created like an S3 bucket. So if you see, this is the resource I type, and you're telling Terraform basically that I want to create an S3 bucket in AWS, right? And this over here is the name or label that you're giving the resource within Terraform. So you basically use this name or tag to refer to this resource in other parts of the configuration, right? So now that we did this, also this you can like replace this with anything. Just remember that your bucket name has to be unique because it's a global resource. And force destroy equal to true. Basically, what this does is if you ever use Terraform destroy, it'll delete the bucket even if it contains files. So make sure to use it like very carefully. So once you do that, first open a new terminal. Okay, you're already here. So you have to initialize the directory. So you will do a Terraform init. Okay, so what this does is basically this sets up Terraform and it downloads the AWS provider. So now that we did that, we can just do a Terraform plan. So what this does is it'll basically double check what Terraform plans to do before it actually does anything. So you'll see output as to which resources will be created. Okay, so once you do that, yeah, just do a save and do a Terraform plan. Okay, so you can see here that Terraform will show you the plan and ask, do you want to perform these actions, right? And this is the plan. So what you would do is do a Terraform apply. So you can see that one resource has been added over here. So now what you'll do is you can also verify in your file and just make sure that you log out of here and use the user. I will just check S3 buckets. Okay, you can see that the one that we created is there over here, right? Okay, now that you can see that using our CLI, we have created an S3 bucket on your Amazon. So just to destroy this, you would do a Terraform destroy. Okay, and once you do that, it's actually going to show you what you can want to destroy, and it'll show you one resource to destroy, which is your S3 bucket. Just do a yes and you'll see it's destroyed. So now if you go back and if you really refresh your buckets, you'll see that it's not there. Okay, and that's it. You've now got your local machine talking securely to AWS, and we've also created an S3 bucket using Terraform. And hopefully, you saw how everything ties together from IAM users to CLI credentials to real infra deployment. So that's it for this video. Okay, so you guys finally learned how to set up your CLI and also install Terraform, which is a huge step and the first big step in automating infrastructure. So if you guys like this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more cloud and DevOps tutorials. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.